Hi, friends. With Father's Day right behind us when I'm recording this, I want to start with something that happened recently. My sister wanted to take care of her husband for Father's Day. It was nothing complicated, nothing dramatic. She simply wanted him to have a day where he was cared for. A day where he did not have to manage everything, where he did not have to make all the decisions, where he could receive. And what stood out to me was how hard that was for him. And it's not because he did not appreciate it, not because he did not love her, not because he did not want the care, but because when you are used to being the caretaker, the provider, the steady one, the person that everyone can count on, receiving care can feel uncomfortable. It can feel like you are becoming a burden. It can feel like you are asking too much. It can feel like you are stepping outside the role that people know you for. And what made that moment even more powerful is that my sister saw herself in it too, because she also knows what it feels like to care for everyone else and then struggle to let herself be cared for. And I think a lot of us understand that feeling, whether it's women, men, mothers, fathers, providers, caregivers, business owners, coaches, high achievers, the ones who carry the schedule. They carry the meals, the emotions, the appointments, the bills, the family needs, the work demands, the mental list that never fully turns off. And somewhere along the way, we stop seeing help as care and start seeing it as evidence that we cannot handle our life. So today, we are talking about why it is so hard to ask for help and why the care that you keep refusing may be the very thing that your body, your health, and your relationships need from you. Welcome back to Your Relationships Are Keeping You Fat, a Miss New Booty Fitness podcast. I'm your host, Darla, National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach. And if you've ever found yourself saying, I'm fine, I've got it, I don't want to bother anyone, or it's easier if I just do it myself, or maybe I should be able to handle this, then you are going to want to stay with me for this one. Because we are going to talk about how refusing help can quietly shape your health, your habits, your stress, your food choices, your body image, your relationships, and the way you experience yourself. So if you haven't already, click the follow button because these episodes build on each other, and we are not just talking about food, workouts, or willpower. We are looking at the relationships, the identities, responsibilities, and old stories that shape how we care for ourselves. And I don't want you to miss where we are going next. To begin, let's talk about the capable one. The one who gets it done, the one who remembers the appointments, the one who knows what groceries are missing, the one who notices when the laundry is piling up, the one who tracks the schedule, the one who thinks 3 steps ahead, the one who can walk into a room and immediately see what needs to be fixed, or what needs to be cleaned, or what needs to be handled, answered, or managed. Maybe that role started because you were naturally responsible. Or maybe you became that person because your family needed you to be. Maybe motherhood trained it into you. Maybe marriage did. Maybe your job did. Maybe life became so demanding that you learned that there was no time to wait for someone else to notice. So you became the one who noticed everything. And being capable is not a bad thing. Let me say that clearly. Being capable is beautiful. It is strong, it is useful, and it is often the reason that your life works as well as it does. But being capable becomes heavy when you are no longer allowed to need anything, when everyone else gets to have limits, but you do not, when everyone else gets to be tired, but you have to keep going, when everyone else gets backup, but you tell yourself that you should be able to figure it out alone. That is where the capable one becomes trapped because she is praised for carrying everything, but privately, she is exhausted from never being carried. And that exhaustion can be confusing because from the outside, people may admire how much you handle. They may compliment your strength. They may say things like, I don't know how you do it all. And part of you may feel proud about that. But another part of you may feel tired, maybe even resentful, because being seen as capable is not the same thing as being supported. And when you have spent years being praised for not needing much, asking for help can start to feel like you are breaking character. For a lot of people, asking for help does not feel simple. It feels loaded. It brings up stories. It brings up guilt. It brings up shame. It brings up the fear of being too much. So instead of asking directly, we hint and then we wait or we hope someone notices. And hinting can sound really normal. It can sound like, I'm so tired. But what we mean is, I need you to take over bedtime tonight. It can sound like, this kitchen is a mess. But what we mean is, can you unload the dishwasher while I finish dinner? It can sound like, I guess I'll do it. But what we mean is, I feel alone carrying this. It can sound like, must be nice to sit down. But what we mean is, I need help before I lose it. It can sound like, I haven't even had time to eat today. But what we mean is, I need someone to notice that I'm running on empty. It can sound like, no, it's fine. But what we mean is, it's not fine. But I don't know how to ask without feeling like a burden. And this is where it gets tricky because the need is real. The exhaustion is real. The desire to be seen is real, but the request is unclear. So the other person may not respond the way that we hoped that they would. And then we feel hurt. We feel unseen. We feel unsupported, maybe even resentful. And it's not because the need was wrong, but because we never gave it words. Then we tell ourselves that we should not need help anyway. And I can say that because I know that version of myself very well. I know what it feels like to hint at what I need instead of saying it clearly. I know what it feels like to wait for someone to notice and then feel hurt when they do not. I know what it feels like to build a whole story in my mind, like if they cared, they would see it. If they loved me, they would know. If I mattered, they would help me without me having to ask. And in hindsight, I can see how painful that was because after a really devastating season in my marriage, I had to look back and realize something that was really hard to admit. I did not always know how to ask for help. I expected it. I hoped for it. I wanted someone to notice how much I was carrying, but I did not always know how to say, I need you here, or I need help with this, or I am overwhelmed, or I cannot keep carrying this the same way. And when my expectations and my reality did not line up, the disappointment grew, the frustration grew, And instead of that teaching me how to ask more honestly, it pushed me deeper into the belief that I did not need anybody. Like, fine, I can be frustrated on my own. I can be tired on my own. I can handle it myself. But that mindset did not make me stronger. It made me more alone. And I could not see that clearly while I was in it because hindsight really is 2020. So now I can look back and see that needing help was not the problem. Not knowing how to ask for it, and then feeling abandoned when it did not magically arrive, that was the part that kept hurting me. And if that sounds familiar, I want you to know this is not because you are dramatic. It may be because needing help touches an old belief. Maybe somewhere along the way you learned that if I need help, then I am weak. Or if I ask for too much, people will leave. Or if I cannot handle it, I am failing. If I rest, I am lazy. If I need support, I am a burden. If that belief has been running in the background for years, you can be surrounded by people who love you, yet you still struggle to receive care. Because the issue is not only whether the help is available, the issue is whether you believe it is safe to ask for it directly. And that is why receiving help can feel just as complicated as asking for it because sometimes the help is right there. Someone is offering, someone is willing, someone is trying to care for you. But your body still wants to say, no, I'm fine. I've got it. Don't worry about me. Because asking for help and receiving it both require the same thing, and that is trust. So that is why the Father's Day moment stood out to me so much because here was someone being offered care. And the hard part was not the care itself. The hard part was allowing it, letting someone else step in, letting someone else take the lead, letting the day be lighter, letting himself not be the provider for just a moment. And I think this happens in a lot of relationships. Someone says, let me help. And we immediately say, no, it's okay. I've got it. Don't worry about it. Or I don't want to make it a big deal. But underneath that response, there may be a deeper fear. And it's the fear that if someone sees how tired we are, they will think less of us. The fear that if we need support, that we are not as strong as they thought. The fear that receiving care means we are taking too much. And this is where relationships matter so much because if your relationship with yourself is built around being useful, then being cared for can feel unfamiliar. If your value has been tied to what you do for others, then rest can feel undeserved. If your role has always been to hold everything together, then support can feel like losing control. That is exactly why this conversation belongs on this podcast because your relationships are not just affecting your calendar, they are affecting your body, your habits, your stress, your hunger, your recovery, your ability to follow through, and your ability to feel safe being a human. And I think that Father's Day moment stood out to me because I also saw myself in it. Not the version of me who can talk about this with so much more awareness, but the version of me who was living in survival mode. The version who knew how to keep moving, but did not know how to let herself be cared for. I remember one birthday morning years ago, my family had told me the night before that they were going to take care of me, and I believe they meant it. But the next morning, I woke up before everyone else, like I always did. And before most people were even out of bed, I already had cleaned the house, the bathrooms, the toilets, the counters, floors, all of it by 8 o'clock in the morning. The house was handled. And I remember knowing even then, this is not how I'm supposed to be showing up on a day when people said that they wanted to care for me. But I could not stop myself because doing the work felt more familiar than receiving the care. Being useful felt safer than being celebrated. Getting ahead of the day felt more natural than letting someone else take the lead. And that is what survival mode can do. It teaches you how to keep moving, but it does not always teach you how to receive. It teaches you how to manage everything, but not how to let someone else step in. It teaches you how to be needed, but not how to be held. And that is why this conversation matters because sometimes we say we want help, but when the help gets close, our body does not know what to do with it. So we start cleaning, planning, managing, correcting, taking the task back, proving we are fine. And then we wonder why no one knows how tired we are. I saw that same pattern show up again in another season of my life, a season where from the outside, I looked like I was handling everything. But inside, I was exhausted and still trying to prove that I had done enough. A few years ago, my husband was coming home from a 10-month deployment, and I remember saying something to him that surprised even me. I said, I hope you don't come home and think I haven't been doing anything. And as soon as I said it, I heard myself because objectively, I had been doing everything. I was working full time. I was running two businesses, taking care of two kids, managing the house, keeping the routines going, handling the emotional load, making sure that life kept moving. There was no part of that season where I had been doing nothing. But inside my body, I still felt like I needed to prove it, like I needed evidence, like I needed my exhaustion to be visible enough for someone to understand why I was tired. And when I look back at that now, I can see what I was really saying. I was not only saying, I hope you see how much I did. I was saying, I hope I am allowed to need rest now. I hope I have earned help. I hope my tiredness makes sense to you. And that is such a powerful thing to notice because sometimes we are not asking for help directly. We are trying to prove that we deserve it. We overexplain, we list everything we did, we justify why we are tired. We wait until we are completely depleted before we let anyone step in. And by that point, the help we needed weeks ago has turned into resentment, exhaustion, shutdown, or emotional eating at the end of the day. And it's not because we are broken because we waited too long to let ourselves be supported. And that is usually when the body starts speaking louder. Because what we do not ask for directly, the body often starts expressing indirectly through exhaustion, through cravings, through irritability, through shutdown, through the feeling of, I cannot do one more thing. Receiving help is not only about making life easier. Help is a part of how we protect our health. And there is a health cost to living like you never need help. Because when you live like you cannot need anything, your body still has needs. And those needs are food, sleep, recovery, movement, hydration, connection, quiet time, space or time to think, time to prepare, time to come down from the day. And if those needs are not met, your body starts looking for relief somewhere. And maybe that relief shows up through your cravings, maybe through snacking at night, maybe through scrolling, maybe through skipping your workouts, maybe through overworking, maybe through irritability, Maybe through feeling numb, maybe through constantly starting over every Monday. And this is why I want us to be careful about calling everything a discipline problem, because sometimes the issue is not that you lack discipline. Sometimes the issue is that you have built a life where your needs are last. And then you are surprised when your body asks for relief in the only ways it knows how. And you are not failing because you need help. You may be struggling because you have been trying to build health without enough room, care, or structure. And your health requires support. It requires time. It requires recovery. It requires honest communication. It requires a life that makes room for the body that you are asking to change. And this is where coaching gets really honest because most women do not need someone to tell them that their goals matter. They already know that. They know they want more energy. They know they want to feel better in their body. They know they want to follow through. But knowing what you want and having a life that gives you room to practice it are two very different things. And that difference shows up in the small, everyday moments, like the dinner conversation, or the work day that runs over, or the medical appointment, or the recovery time that you need but feel guilty taking, or the places where support is needed, but asking for it feels heavy. The next 6 months are going to pass either way. And the question is, will your habits, your body, and your energy feel any different? If you're ready for that to change, this is where we start. My signature 6-month body and lifestyle transformation is my most comprehensive coaching experience. This is for women who want structure, guidance, and support they can actually follow, not another plan to start over with. Inside, you'll get personalized training delivered through my coaching app, nutrition guidance tailored to your body and your lifestyle, weekly check-ins for accountability and adjustments, and direct access to me for support along the way. This is about building consistency, trust with your body, and results that actually last. You can learn more and apply at missnewbootyfitness.com/coaching. That's missnewbootyfitness.com/coaching. Now back to the show. I had a few coaching conversations recently that brought this even deeper for me. One conversation with a woman who was trying to keep up with the end of a long workday while also carrying the expectation that dinner will be planned, prepared, fresh, and appealing to someone else's preferences at home. And now I want you to really picture that. So she is finishing a full day of work. Her brain is tired. Her body is tired. She still has responsibilities waiting for her. And instead of being able to come home and recover, she is trying to figure out dinner. She's managing the household rhythm and still catching up on the work that she cannot finish during the day. So the workday does not really end, it just changes locations. And underneath all of that is guilt for needing help, guilt for wanting the load to be shared, and shame for feeling frustrated when she cannot keep doing all of it with a good attitude. So when we slowed it down, the issue was not that she did not care, because she cares deeply. The issue was that she had become responsible for meeting everyone else's needs while her own kept getting pushed to the end of the day. And by the time the day was over, there was almost nothing left for her. Not for her health, not for her routines, not for her goals, not for her rest. And that is where asking for help becomes so important. Because sometimes help does not sound dramatic. Sometimes it sounds like, I need dinner to be simpler this week. Or I need you to handle 2 of the meals. Or I need us to plan this together before the week starts. Or I need you to understand that I am not available to carry work, dinner, and everyone else's preferences by myself. That is not selfish. That is honest. And that is a woman naming the load before resentment becomes the only language left. Another conversation was with a woman preparing to take time off for a medical procedure. And even though her body clearly needed care, emotionally, that was hard because she is used to being the caretaker, the one who notices what everyone else needs, the one who keeps things moving, the one who manages the details before other people even think to ask. So, needing care for herself felt really uncomfortable. And it's not because she did not understand why she needed it, because she did. But understanding something logically and then allowing yourself to receive it are not always the same thing. When you are used to being the caretaker, being the one who needs help can feel exposing. It can bring up questions like, will people think I'm needy? Will I be too much? Will things fall apart if I'm not managing everything? Can I actually let someone take care of me without trying to control how they do it? And this is where I see the pattern show up again and again. The body may be asking for rest. The doctor may be asking for recovery. The coach may be saying, you need to slow down. The people around her may even be willing to help. But inside, there is still a part of her trying to earn permission to be cared for. And I see this all the time. A woman can understand the logic of rest, but still feel guilty when she takes it. She can know she needs support, but still struggle to ask for it. She can know her body is depleted, but still feel like she has to earn permission to slow down. And that is where the information simply is not enough. Because the work is not only knowing what to do, the work is learning how to become the kind of person who can receive what she needs without turning it into guilt. And that guilt is usually where the deeper belief shows up because receiving what we need can feel uncomfortable. When we have been taught to see needing anything as a loss of independence, we start making support mean something that it does not mean. We make it mean that we are weak. We make it mean we cannot handle our life. We make it mean that we are asking too much. But support is not the same thing as being incapable, and needing help does not erase your strength. One reason that asking for help feels so hard is because many of us confuse support with dependence. We think if I need help, I am not independent. If I cannot do it alone, then I am not strong. If I need accountability, I should be embarrassed. Or if I need structure, I must be failing. But support is not the opposite of strength. Support is often what allows your strength to continue. Think about training. A muscle does not grow from effort alone. It needs stress, yes, but it also needs recovery. It needs nutrients, it needs rest, it needs time, it needs progression, it needs a plan. You would never look at a muscle and say, you should be able to grow without support, because that would make no sense. But we do this to ourselves all the time. We expect our habits to grow without structure. We expect our health to improve without help. We expect our bodies to change while our lives keep demanding more from us. And then we blame ourselves when we cannot sustain it. But maybe the issue is not weakness. Maybe the issue is that you're missing infrastructure. Help is infrastructure. Accountability is infrastructure. Meal planning is infrastructure. A shared calendar is infrastructure. A grocery list is infrastructure. A coaching check in is infrastructure. A partner taking over bedtime is infrastructure. A friend walking with you is infrastructure. A planned rest day is infrastructure. Support does not make you less capable. It gives your capacity somewhere to land. And that is such an important distinction because a lot of us say that we want more capacity, but we keep removing the very things that would help us hold it. We want to be more consistent, but we resist accountability. We want to feel less overwhelmed, but we keep carrying tasks that no one asked us to carry alone. We want our health to feel sustainable, but we treat support like something that we should have outgrown. And that is where this old belief sneaks in. There's a sentence that I hear often: I should be able to do this on my own. And every time I hear it, I want to slow it down. Where did that rule come from? Who taught you that needing help meant that you were failing? Who benefits from you believing that you should carry everything alone? Most of the things that we are trying to do in real life were never meant to be done without support. Raising children, managing a household, building a career, maintaining a marriage, caring for aging parents, healing your relationship with food, losing weight, training consistently, changing your habits, regulating your stress. You can take responsibility for your life without doing everything alone. Those are not the same thing, and that distinction matters because responsibility says, I am willing to participate in my own change. Isolation says, I am only worthy if I can do this without needing anyone. And those two create very different outcomes. One builds self trust, and the other builds exhaustion. And that exhaustion is usually where the truth starts pressing to the surface because eventually doing everything alone stops feeling strong and it starts feeling unsustainable. But admitting that can be hard because honesty asks us to name what we have been trying to hide: that we are tired, that we are overwhelmed, that we need help, that we cannot keep carrying the same load in the same way. And for the capable one, that kind of honesty can feel more vulnerable than the work itself. And another reason that help feels hard is because asking for it requires honesty. You have to admit where you are. You have to say, I'm tired. I'm overwhelmed. I am not keeping up. I need you to take this off my plate. I need accountability. I need a plan that fits my life. I need a break. I need someone to check in on me. I need this to matter to someone besides me. And for the capable one, that kind of honesty can feel exposing because people may be used to you being fine. They may be used to you handling it. They may not even realize how much you are carrying because you have made carrying it look normal. And that can be so frustrating. But it's also important because sometimes people do not help. And it's not because they do not care, but because we have trained them to believe that we do not need anything. We say we are fine. We decline help. We redo things when they are not done our way. We take the task back. We rescue everyone from discomfort. And then we wonder why no one steps in. And listen, I say that with compassion because I know that pattern. I know how easy it is to say, it is easier if I just do it. But if we always choose easier in the moment, we may end up carrying heavier in the long run. And this is where I want to make help feel more practical. Because when we talk about asking for help, it can sound big, it can sound heavy, emotional, like we have to sit everyone down and explain our entire life. But most of the time, help starts smaller than that. It starts in the daily practices where your health keeps getting crowded out at the dinner routine, the bedtime routine, the grocery list, the 20 minutes that you need to walk, the quiet that you need after work, the food prep that keeps getting pushed aside, the workout you keep missing because everyone else takes the open space first. That is where support begins. So let's bring this into your health because asking for help does not always mean a dramatic conversation. Sometimes it can sound like, can you handle dinner on the nights that I train? Can you take the kids for 20 minutes so I can walk? Can we keep certain foods out of the house for a few weeks while I rebuild trust with myself? Can you help me protect my bedtime? Can we plan meals before the week starts? Can you not comment on my food or body while I'm working on this? Can you ask me how my check in went? Can you celebrate my consistency instead of only noticing my weight loss? Can you give me space to go to the gym without making me feel guilty? That is help. That is support. That is communication. And for some of you, the help you need may be professionals such as a coach, a therapist, a doctor, a dietitian, a trainer. And for some of you, the help you need may be a professional such as a coach, a therapist, a doctor, a dietitian, a trainer, or a support group, or a community that understands the season that you are in, not because you are incapable, but because the goal that you are pursuing may require a level of structure that your current life does not naturally provide. And there is nothing wrong with that. So once we understand this, we can stop treating support like a bonus. Support is not something extra that you add after everything else is handled. Support is part of what makes change possible because your health goals do not happen in isolation. They happen inside your home, inside your schedule, inside your marriage, inside your family rhythms, inside the conversations that you are willing to have and the ones that you keep avoiding. So the question becomes, is my environment helping me practice the habits I say matter? Or is it quietly pulling me away from them? This is why your relationships matter so much, because the people around you can either make your goals feel safer or more difficult to sustain. If every request for help turns into guilt, your body learns that your needs are inconvenient. If every attempt to rest gets questioned, your body learns that rest is not safe. If every boundary creates conflict, your body learns that taking care of yourself comes with a cost. And if your health goals require you to constantly fight for space, eventually your body may start choosing what feels easier. And that may be the snack, it may be the scroll or the skipped workout, the late night, the silence, the resentment. And it's not because you lack discipline, but because the environment keeps asking you to choose between peace and self care. And that is exhausting. So sometimes the work is not only changing your food, sometimes the work is changing the conversations around your food. Not only changing your workouts, but changing the expectations around your time. Not only changing your habits, but changing the relationships that shape whether those habits feel possible. And I know this part may be landing in a very specific way because once you start seeing how the relationships shape your habits, you start recognizing it everywhere in your home, in your friendships, in the women you love, in the people who always say they're fine but look completely worn out. That is why this is worth sharing. So, as you were listening, I know somebody probably came to mind. Maybe it was a sister, a friend, a spouse, a coworker, or someone who keeps saying, I'm fine. I got it. I don't need anything. Send this episode to them. And this is not to call them out, it's not to fix them, but to remind them that they are allowed to be supported too. And maybe that reminder is for them, but maybe it is for you too. Because sometimes it is easier to see someone else's exhaustion than it is to admit our own. It is easier to say, she deserves help, than it is to believe, I do too. So before we close this episode, I want to bring this back to you. So here is the question that I want you to sit with. What if asking for help is not a sign that you are failing. What if it is a sign that you are finally being honest? Honest about your capacity, honest about your needs, honest about the season that you are in, honest about what your health actually requires. The goal is not to become someone who never needs anything. The goal is to become someone who can recognize her needs early enough to respond before she breaks down. And maybe the strongest version of you is not the one who carries everything alone. Maybe the strongest version of you is the one who can say, I need support here. This matters to me. I cannot keep doing it this way. I want to change, but I need structure, and I am worth making room for. That is not weakness. That is leadership. That is self trust. That is a woman who no longer abandons herself to keep everyone else comfortable. And I don't want you to rush past that because this is not just a nice idea. This is a practice. It is one thing to hear you are allowed to need help. It is another thing to notice where your body still resists it, where your mouth says, I'm fine, but your chest feels tight, where your mind says, I'll just do it myself, but your body feels tired of carrying everything. So, before we move on, let's slow this down and make it personal. I want you to pause for a moment. Take a deep, slow breath in and a slow breath out. And ask yourself, where am I refusing help right now? Where am I saying I'm fine when I'm actually overwhelmed? Where am I waiting for someone to notice instead of saying what I need? Where am I carrying something alone because I am afraid of being a burden? And what would change if I believed support was not something that I had to earn? Maybe the answer is simple. Maybe it is asking for 20 minutes. Maybe it is asking someone else to handle dinner. Maybe it is sending the honest message. Maybe it is scheduling the appointment. Maybe it is letting someone love you without immediately trying to repay them. So just notice what comes up. There's no fixing, there's no judging, just notice. Because that awareness is the starting place. Because before you can change the way you ask for help, you have to notice the moment you almost do. The moment the need rises up and then you swallow it back down. The moment you want to say something, but decide it would be easier to stay quiet. The moment that your body is asking for support, but your mouth says, I'm fine. That is the moment I want you to pay attention to this week. When you say, never mind, I'll just do it, it's fine. I don't want to be a bother to anyone. They should already know. When those moments show up, pause and ask, what am I afraid will happen if I let someone support me? Will they think I'm weak? Will they think I am too much? Will I feel out of control? Will I owe them something? Will I have to admit that I cannot keep doing life this way? And then ask one more question. What is one small request that I can make this week before I am completely depleted? Not a dramatic request. It's not a life overhaul, just one honest request. It's one place where you'll allow your needs to take up space. And maybe that one honest request becomes the beginning of something new. not because it fixes everything overnight, but because it interrupts the pattern of waiting until you're exhausted, or the pattern of staying quiet until you feel resentful, the pattern of proving that you can handle everything while quietly wishing someone would notice. One small request is not small when you are learning to let your needs matter. It is a way of telling yourself, I am allowed to be supported before I fall apart. You are not weak for needing help. You are not a burden because you have limits. And you are not failing because your life requires support. You are human. You are living in a real body inside a real life with real responsibilities. And your health cannot be built on pretending that you do not have needs. The goal is not to become the woman who can carry everything alone. The goal is to become the woman who knows what she needs and trust herself enough to say it. Help is not the opposite of strength. Support is not the opposite of independence. And receiving care does not make you less capable. It makes your life more honest. So maybe this week is not about proving that you can do more. Maybe it is about telling the truth sooner, before the resentment, before the burnout, before the late night spiral, before your body has to get louder, because the version of you that you are becoming does not have to earn rest through her exhaustion. She does not have to earn care through collapse. She does not have to carry everything to prove that she is worthy. And maybe that is the version of you we are making room for now. Not the woman who proves her worth by how much she can carry, not the woman who waits until she's empty before she lets anyone in, not the woman who has to be falling apart before her needs are taken seriously, but the woman who can tell the truth sooner, the woman who can name what she needs, the woman who can receive care without apologizing for it, and the woman who is learning that being supported does not make her less strong. It makes her life more sustainable. So, as you move through this week, remember your needs are not an inconvenience. Your limits are not a character flaw, and asking for help is not the same thing as giving up. Life changes, capacity changes, relationships change, and the way you support yourself is allowed to change too. Stay connected to what you are beginning to notice, and we'll keep building from there. And I'll see you in the next episode.